Don't overthink the processes. Like, don't spend a month setting up a CRM. The idea of a hub is somewhere that you go, but not somewhere that you live. I am instinctively introverted, but I've become much, much better at going to conferences and just walking with people, say, "Hi, I'm James. What do you do?"
What are the tools that you'd recommend from an early stage 0 to 1 founder? Is there a differential for Web3 to traditional tech startups?
Because of the decentralized nature of Web3 and blockchain, right? Whether you like it or not, you will always be managing to some degree a remote team, right? The chances of you having everyone in the same place at the same time are either non-existent or incredibly expensive, right? And it's not something that as an early stage startup you want. Um, if you did build your team with the people that are immediately available to you locally, like physically available to you, you're probably missing out on expertise that you should have looked for elsewhere, or you're spending too much for it where you are currently. Um, and this needs to be translated into your operational tools and practices. This needs to be translated into your systems and your processes. So again, don't overthink the processes. Like, don't spend a month setting up a CRM or a Gantt chart or a ticket management system. Like, use what's off the shelf. Work with your team, kind of work out those kinks. And as long as you establish a regular cadence, right, you start developing habits. And you, again, back to expectations and communication, right? If you use the tools, the way that you use the tool is more important than the tool that you have. And because we're remote first, that kind of has to be your baseline. You can't be like, oh, we have 90% of the office in person, and then we're going to do this for this other 10%. You really need to be managing for the people that are the other 10%, because especially in Web3, that's the way that it's going. I don't think we're going to see a consolidation of blockchain or Web3 engineers in one place, right? The idea of a hub is somewhere that you go, but not somewhere that you live, right? You fly in and out of San Francisco, New York, Austin, Paris, Berlin, Lisbon, right? These are places that you don't necessarily have to live, but that you need to visit frequently. Your day-to-day operations need to come down to tickets, regular meetings, rhythm more than anything. So Charlie, I don't think you wanted me to list specific tools that we've used, but find what works.
Jira and
yeah, ClickUp, Jira, all these, Asana. I've used all of them, and to a certain degree, like, some teams just have like an adverse reaction to some things, like Jira. People don't, I don't know, there's like, oh, Jira is not cool anymore, right? Like, so if you try and introduce Jira, it's like, oh, I left Web 2 because I didn't want to use Jira anymore. Okay, that's fine. We'll use ClickUp, we'll use Airtable, use whatever. But if the learning curve is easy enough and people use it effectively, that's more important. But structure, process, and cadence. I think cadence more than anything with a remote team.
Oh, brilliant. What are some of the most significant operational challenges that you faced when you've been scaling your team?
Probably should have saved my story about communication after ECC for this.
Well, I mean, communication, referencing that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing would be communication, right? When you're 3 people, it's very easy to hop on a phone call whenever and share information. When you're 10 people, you need to have a daily call, 15, 20 minutes, just for everyone to share information, and then find out if you need to have an additional conversation after that. If you're 25, 30 people, can't do a 15-minute call anymore, right? Now you're breaking into departments, but you need to bring everyone together, right? At probably once a week, and then once a month, do a big milestone strategic, this is our roadmap, this is our plan, this is our vision, this is what's changed conversation. So again, setting that cadence for communication in scaling helps you understand where you have room to add further things as your team grows, and you can continue to scale that level of communication. Once that happens organically, you turn it into a process, right? You turn it into a system. I expect you to be on this phone call every single day at 5:30 p.m. Central European time. This is non-negotiable. This is what I expect to have from you. 3 wins, 3 things you need help with, and then a report on your tickets. Done, right? But first 3 people, not so important. 10 people, much more important. 20 people, absolutely critical. And the only way that you'll get there at scale is by constantly again, communicating and saying, guys, where are we missing? Where are we dropping the ball? And then using that feedback to improve that continually, right? To iterate on your processes. Just because you have a process that worked a year ago doesn't mean it's going to work today. And so you need to continuously update that as you scale. If it feels like there's friction, you probably need to re-examine it.
Right, now we're getting to the more Web3 side of things.
Okay.
Partnership development. In a Web3 environment, partnerships can be crucial. How do you identify and cultivate strategic partnerships that propel your business forward?
Don't be a dick. Step one. No, I think again, especially in tech, it's very easy to shy away from being active in a community. When it comes to partnership development, you need to nurture that side of who you are. Like I am instinctively introverted, but I've become much better at going to conferences and just walking with people. Say, "Hi, I'm James. What do you do? What do you do in the space?" Right? That question that we all hate to answer 50 million times over the course of 4 days. But you get good at it, and then once you get past that, you can say, "Is this something that I want to continue having a conversation with? Is this someone I want to share my Telegram with, or am I going to walk away from that?" So you have to go to these events, and I understand that for especially a lot of early stage founders, conferences can seem like a distraction, and in many cases they are. Like when we were building very heavily, I took probably 6 or 7 months where I didn't go to conferences. Period. My job was with my team, uh, but the world moves on without you, right? And then you have to go back and nurture those relationships again. So even if it's one conference a quarter, even if it's just meetups in your local city, or doing a hackathon or something that's online or virtual, participating in that community one way or another helps you maintain those partnerships that will eventually become commercial partnerships, right? This is a person that I met 3 years ago, and then you run into them in, I don't know, Istanbul, and it's like, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm doing this now. Oh, wow, we could really work with that. You have a framework, we have infrastructure. We should go to the market together. So getting out of your house is super important. Um, and the second one,
Yeah.
it's a little cringe for me because it's like one of these like textbook, like I read it in a book sometime, and when I'm starting a business, I need to have mentors, right? Mentors. Everyone's talking about mentorship. Um, I want to emphasize that like this isn't like Aristotle sitting on a rock type of mentorship like that you really need. What you need to do is you need to again build that community and know that when I need to learn about cryptography, I go to this guy. When I need to talk about tokens or product market fit or marketing or communication, you have people that you've met in this process that help you get to the right partnerships that you need for the business, right? It's that personal relationship. Rely on your community to filter that for you. It makes it a lot less transactional as well. Like I know a marketing guy recommends that I go talk to these 4 companies to solve this problem. And then
Yeah.
from that, you can have one, a warm introduction, but two, you're not wasting your time. Again, the most important resource that you have as a startup founder, you're not wasting time talking to people that are either too big for you, too small for you, or just otherwise don't provide a good service, right? It's been filtered through some degree of recommendation. So mentors, if we want to call them that, advocates, resources, right? These are experts that you've cultivated because you left the house, right? And I think that's super important. And sometimes it's just not talking about Web3. Like we're all human beings too.
Get a beer.
And there's a lot of, food and beverage guys, a lot of music guys, a lot of folks that like, I don't know, bouldering or skiing or whatever it might be, Warhammer, right? Like it's okay to not talk about crypto stuff with the community.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those are some of the better communities that you have. Like one of my most active Telegram groups, it's just guys that like smoking cigars that work in crypto, and we meet up at conferences, right? And
Nice.
yeah, it's easy, right? It's an easy thing to bond over, but then you start getting those partnerships, and then they help you filter, and then you get the commercial stuff as a part of that. Caveat: this probably works right now for Web3. I can only assume that as we mature, and we are maturing very quickly, that this will stop being the case, right? But right now, everyone's still kind of an OG. It's still very early days. And I mean, that's my playbook for right now.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right,
nice.
accelerating to the end of the 10 questions. Risk management. We're going to ask you to quick fire these because of time.
Yes, sir.
Can
Risk
you
management.
can you discuss your approach to risk management, particularly in relation to technology and the market volatility of Web3?
You can't control the volatility. That's fine, right? Ignore it. It's always going to be up or down, good or bad. When I make decisions, I always start with the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect decision. I need to make the best decision with the information that I have available to me. And usually that is, I'm going to take a day to analyze and collect as much information as I can. If it's a big problem, a week. If it's a huge problem, like a legal thing, maybe a month. But set a timeline for yourself. And at the end of that time, with the information that you have, make the best decision that you can. Right? As a founder, as a CEO, your job is to always make the best decision within the context that you're in. Right? There's no such thing as perfect information.